guys, today I'm cooking some vegetable pho and I wanted to show you guys what I'm doing. So to make this delicious pho, I have some onions. These are just white onions that I've cut really small, and then I'm sauteing them, or I guess deep frying them in some coconut oil with some salt, and that is it. And so once these get a little bit darker, I'm going to go ahead and throw them into the broth that I've got going. So over here, kind of hard to see it, but I've got little baby bok choy. They're really cute. I'll show you what they look like. These are little baby bok choy, and I've thrown about 8 to 10 of them in there. They're really small. And I also put in some tomato. So I've taken a big tomato and just kind of sliced it into little bite-sized chunks like that. Just thrown that in there. I've got some filtered water, and then I used 2 of each of these bouillons. So you get this from your local Asian store, but this noodle soup flavor, and it's for pho, but it's like a vegetable pho. I got 2 of those in there, and then 2 of these, just the regular pho. You can omit either one of those, but I just feel like the flavor is going to be better using those. So this is going to be a pretty big soup. So I just dropped in the onions. I couldn't show you guys and do it at the same time, because this is going to be kind of like a very simple vlog, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to appreciate this. But yeah, so right now they're just sitting in there, and I've got an empty pan over here. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is saute some mushrooms. I'll show you guys the mushrooms I have, but before I do that, I want to explain why I did what I did with the onions. So basically, if you just throw the onions in there and you don't saute them first, it's not going to bring out the flavor, that caramelized oniony flavor that they have. But doing it that way, it really brings out the flavor of the onions. I've got some, this is actually a mushroom. It's called a king oyster. So I'm going to be cleaning these off, cutting them up, and actually sauteing them a little bit, very lightly, and then throwing them in the pot. I've got some of those. I've also have, here's, let me get this one out. So here's another one. I also have these beach mushrooms. I think that's what they're called. They're really cute. So there's the little beach mushrooms. So I'm going to be throwing those in the soup. Just basically, I think I want to do them whole, but I'm not sure. I might cut them in half and then throw them in. Not sure. These I'm going to cut them in little pieces because they're just really thick. And then over here, got some shiitake mushrooms. And look at that price, guys. $4.39 for shiitake mushrooms. I'm telling you, the Asian grocery is where it's at. They're different than the shiitake mushrooms that I usually buy, but they are definitely shiitake. That's what they told me. They're just like a little more plump than your typical shiitake mushroom. So I'm going to be putting those in there. I'm going to saute all of those lightly first. Then I'm going to be adding bean sprouts. So that's what they look like. I'll be throwing those in kind of towards the end. Same with this. This is just, you don't really need this, but this is just like a pho soup base that you can put in there. It's just got all the veggies, like some green onions. It has some carrots, some soy sprouts. I believe it has some, maybe even some kind of a root. I just can't remember what kind of root it was. It's all shredded up, and it's going to be a good kind of like filler for that soup, because right now a lot of things that I have are kind of bulky and chunky, but that'll be a really good filler. Then I'm going to add some cilantro and maybe some of those red peppers. I've got some green onions going in there, and I may or may not put some carrots, but definitely green onions. So far, those are all the ingredients that I am working with, and this is what the soup is looking like. So some of the moisture has died down a little bit. You can kind of see what it looks like. There we go. And it's a very dark broth now since I added the onions. It wasn't like this before. So it had kind of like a caramelly color that was a little bit more see-through and clear. And now with the onions, it's turned a darker color, but that's okay because we are going to add more water to this. You can also add some beef or pork. Like this is some beef that my dad grilled last night, and it's just beautifully flavored. You can add some chunks of that if you want to into your soup, and it'll just add some flavor. So really, you know, play around with it. I said this was a vegetarian dish, so I probably will not be adding that meat. But so far, I mean, even this looks pretty good. So we're gonna see what it looks like here in a couple minutes. So all I'm doing is quartering this mushroom after I've sliced the stem, and then I'm just gonna throw them into this pot. This is the cap. Put that in there. And then I'm just gonna quarter these. Pretty simple, just cut it down the middle and then crisscross it. Okay. And then for these mushrooms, I'm simply just, I've rinsed them, I've cut off the bottom where the roots were, and I'm just gonna cut them about right there and just cut them in half, and that's it, because they're gonna just fall apart naturally. Okay, so there they are cut. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in the bottom half. Actually, I think I might saute them first. So let's throw these in. And yes, I know they're a little crowded, but that's okay, because there's quite a bit of coconut oil in there. And let me turn this on. So I'm going to turn this to about medium to low heat. Maybe a little bit more, about medium heat. This one right now I've got on low, but I had it on high when I first started just to boil the water, and then I just turned it down to pretty low. So I'm going to just throw the rest of these in there. Okay. They're so cute. I think these little beach mushrooms are just adorable. I mean, like, seriously, look at this. This is such a tiny little mushroom. So cute. Okay, this guy's just gonna go in the soup. I put a couple of them in there instead of sauteing them, just for some diversity in texture and flavor. I don't like to waste anything. Just put everything in there. Now we're gonna get onto the shiitakes, but I'm gonna wait till these cook down because I'm not gonna overcrowd them too much, even though they're pretty crowded now. That's okay, they'll die down a little bit and shrivel up and get a little smaller. So when that happens, I will add some salt. But for now, we're just going to let them cook down. Or actually, I can go ahead and add salt now, because salt's going to help get the moisture out. Okay, let's add some salt. Good. Okay. I'm just going to stir them up. And all there is in here is I just replenished I added some more coconut oil. Let me turn this light on. There we go. Added some more coconut oil, so then they're cooking down a lot better. Okay, so now we're just going to leave them alone. Let them do their thing. Stir this up a bit. Okay, and now I'm actually going to add some more water. Okay, so I've added about 4 of these large 16-ounce cups of water to the soup. And in there already was about 3 or 4. So that's how much you got now. And you see how dark that is? That's because of the onions. So it does kind of have that like French onion soup look. But we're going to try it real quick. Let me grab a spoon. This is actually my parents' house that I'm cooking from right now. I'm visiting for a couple of days, and they wanted me to make some soup while they're at work. Oh, that's amazing. It has that very strong oniony taste, but like cooked onion taste. It has a very good flavor, and then the pho broth is just perfect. It has a great flavor. The tomatoes really helped too. Yeah, that tastes amazing. The only thing it really needs is some more like sourness, like maybe when you're finishing this off you put some lime juice in there. I'm gonna continue to add more water, so this is gonna be about maybe to right here when I'm done, but that's gonna make the broth a little bit more mild, so it's totally up to you how you want this. Here's my little mushrooms, and I think they're sauteing just fine. I think it's actually time to put them in to the soup. Okay, so this is the last. Come on, little guy. Cooperate, please. No, let's do these. It's really difficult when you're doing everything with one hand and filming, so I just try to edit this. Yes, don't do this at home, but I'm just going to grab it with my hands. It's not that hot. So then I capped the oil that's in here, and now I'm going to add the shiitake mushrooms. So for these last ones, the shiitake mushrooms, I've twisted off the stems, and because the stems can be pretty woody, but they also have a ridiculous amount of flavor, I'm using them more as like a broth infusion. So I'm going to put them in here with a little bit of water, and that's going to take the flavor off the bottom of the pan. Once I'm done doing that, I've got my shiitake mushroom caps over here that I've quartered, and I'm going to toss those in with a little bit of coconut oil, not much, because I really just don't want to keep adding so much oil to my cooking, but I haven't added a lot, just enough to make sure it doesn't stick. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can cook with straight water. I just don't think that it gives it that sauté, like skillet flavor that I love so much. Now you can see I've turned it way down, and now it's just infusing all the flavors together. So I am actually going to add some more tomato to it, and then I'm going to add about 4 sprigs, I guess these are called sprigs, of green onion, and I'm going to include the roots because you can eat the roots and they're good. Okay, I just got all of the onions chopped up. I'm going to start with the root, and just these I'm not going to saute, I'm just going to throw them straight in. And the reason you don't need to saute these is because they've already got a lot of flavor, and I personally like the fresh flavor of these. I don't necessarily want them like sauteed. I like the way they are, just like this. Okay, just stir them up in there. All this is broth infusion. So when you think about making pho, you think about you know, the whole process. It's all about just infusing the broth. Whatever vegetables you think are going to help this broth taste the way that you want, put those in. One thing I'm going to add to this is ginger. Yeah, we're almost ready for these guys. Okay, so this is coming out really good. I can taste amazing. So I'm adding a little bit more water just to get more of that flavor. Guys, I'm telling you, the stems of the shiitake, that's where it's at. And if you want to, you can just put this in a little cheesecloth or like a little baggie that you can soak in the soup. That way you can pull them out later, unless you don't mind eating them. Like this one's really soft, so it depends, right? So this is looking good, that's looking good. Got these ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut up a tomato, and I'm going to go outside actually because I thought that was cilantro, but that ended up being parsley. Yes, that looks like a giant mess over here. I know. But yeah, that's just, we got a lot of greens. But I'm going to go outside and get some cilantro and pull it in to the soup because I think that'll give it an amazing flavor. Okay, there's no cilantro out there, so I'm going to have to go get some from the store, but I'm going to go ahead and put this broth inside of the soup. You guys, it tastes so good. It's like authentic shiitake broth. Okay, so I decided instead of oil, I am going to use water for the shiitakes because this has plenty. That coconut oil, I don't want to add too much. So let's add the shiitakes in. And I'm not going to, I guess, boil these as long as I did the stems. The stems were just harder, so they needed more time. Yep, we got them all. Okay, I'm just going to toss those in. I'm going to cover these up. I'm just going to stir the stems in Look at that, that looks so good. Okay, and then I'm gonna stir these up. Just make sure they're all submerged in the water. Yep, good. And I'm just gonna cover them up. Good to go. And it doesn't need any salt. It really doesn't. The onions had salt, and then the broth had salt in it, some sodium, so it doesn't really need that. So I went ahead and I guess the camera cut out whenever I poured in the shiitake into here, but I just kept all the broth and just poured it in. But now I decided to use the rest of the king oysters because I wanted to saute it aside from everything and just try it, because this is my first time ever working with it and also trying it. So I didn't even know it existed until yesterday. So we're going to saute those aside, and then if I feel like throwing them in there, I'll throw them in. If not, I'll just keep them separated because there's plenty of mushrooms in there. I mean, look at this, y'all. These are all the shiitakes I added. Tons. And all those little like white chunks you see, that's all mushroom. There's quite a bit. So I think we will be good on the mushroom side. But yeah, I did add the tomatoes in there. I don't think I showed you guys that. I added 2 small tomatoes and just cut them into little chunks and bite-sized pieces and threw them in. Just needed more flavor. Okay, one more thing I wanted to add to this soup is lemongrass, and we happen to have a massive plant outside. My parents have this huge lemongrass plant outside, so I just cut a couple stalks off. Here are the stalks. Is actually just maybe 4 or 5, and I bashed them. All that you missed, because sometimes with this phone I feel like I'm filming and I'm not checking it and it's not filming, so sorry about that, guys. It did not get put on this. But basically I just took one of these, I took the teeth side, and I put them down, I laid them down flat, and I just literally hit them until they were crushed open and all that beautiful lemongrass scent came out, and you should smell it. It smells so good in here now. And that releases the aroma. And so then I just cut them in half, and then I stuck them in the broth. So that's going to give it a really nice flavor. It does kind of need like a sweet flavor, so I might add those peppers in. But it'll also give it some pretty color, because right now it's just green and orange and kind of like beigey brown. So I just got done slicing it, and for some visual interest I just sliced them this way, and I've kept the small ones intact, but the bigger slices I cut in half. So I think that just would look really pretty in the soup. So I'm just going to toss that in. And they're also sweet red peppers, so it's going to give it a good sweet flavor. One thing I forgot to film was the cilantro. So I added about this much cilantro, okay? Stems and all. I washed it, and then I cut it into super small little pieces all the way up, and I added that to the soup. Now that's just to give the broth flavor, but once you eat this, like once you pour it into a bowl, you can always use that as a garnish. So you can cut some more and use it as a garnish. But look how pretty it looks already. Isn't that just gorgeous? This is pickled ginger. So I'm going to use the juice of this pickled ginger. Okay, I just tried it. It is amazing. Incredibly amazing. So I think I might add just a couple little pieces of ginger in there, like little slices. I bought this for sushi tomorrow because I'm going to make some sushi, but this works just great. I mean, it would have been nice to have fresh ginger. However, I mean, this has a really good flavor, and it's got a little bit of sweetness, and that's what the soup needed. So I think this will be just fine. So yeah, guys, this is how I make vegetable pho. And like I said, you can add more water to this if you want it to be less potent as far as flavor goes. You can also not add cilantro if you're not a fan. I personally love it. think it adds a good flavor. You can top off the soup with some lime juice, and you can also add like little chunks of meat or just the bone in there if you want that bone beefy broth flavor. Totally up to you. But the whole point is to infuse your broth. It's all about the broth. Okay guys, one more thing. I actually decided to add some fennel to the soup because I think it would give it a really, really nice flavor. But I just took one of the leaves off of the bulb and then sliced it lengthwise and then cut those in half. So I'm going to add that into the soup too. I don't think there's anything else that I could add to this soup that would just perfect the flavor, because I wish you guys could try this. The flavor is amazing. Not only does it have great flavor, but it has a really nice aroma, and it just, you know, when you're cooking like this, it makes your house smell beautiful. It just smells really good, and that's part of the whole experience. Is you're making something new. The smell will be tantalizing enough. So if you know you have some people that are kind of new at trying ethnic foods or international foods, maybe just see how they feel about the scent of it and just the aroma. And a lot of times that will get them, you know, thinking they might want to experiment with something else, or they might just get that bit of courage to maybe even just try a spoonful. But anyways, there you go. That's what it looks like now. I'm very excited to enjoy this. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are encouraged by this, inspired, and just go ahead and take that leap of faith and make your own pho at home. Until next time, blessings.